Welcome into Winnipeg Sports Talk. My name is Connor Rabchak, and on today's episode, I'm going to be taking a look at the Winnipeg Jets offseason and their free agents list. They have a ton of unrestricted free agents, a handful of restricted free agents, and I'm going to be analyzing whether or not these players will be back with the Jets next season. To predict that, I'm going to be taking a look at the seasons that these players had last year, whether or not they fit with the Jets going forward, and what their contract projection is courtesy of Evolving Hockey to see if there's a fit in Winnipeg long term. Let's start with the unrestricted free agents, starting with center Sean Monahan. Before we dive into these players' projected contracts going forward, it should be noted that the Jets have roughly $13.5 million in cap space to work with. That number is via cap friendly, but as we know, money can be freed up in creative ways via a trade or maybe a buyout of a contract here and there, but that number, $13.5 million, keep that in mind when taking a look at these projected contracts. Sean Monahan played 83 games between the Montreal Canadiens and the Winnipeg Jets this season, and in that time, he put together a very productive year, 26 goals, 33 assists, and 59 points. He was a great fit on the Jets on that second line center role and in the bumper on the power play, and for the first time in many years, he put together a fully healthy season. Monahan has been battling injuries throughout his career. This was a great, fully healthy, productive season from him, and because of that, Evolving Hockey is projecting a 3-year deal at $5.2 million for Sean Monahan in free agency. While Monahan was a great fit in the lineup, and I think the Jets do want to bring him back, I can't see them doing it at that price tag. Let me know in the comments below. Would you give him a 3-year, $5.2 million deal, or would you go with a younger option, maybe a Brad Lambert who is unproven at the NHL level at this point? Let me know in the comments below. Sean Monahan, his projected contract, 3 years, $5.2 million per season. Next up on the list is Laurent Brossoit, who had a fantastic year as the Jets backup. He signed a 1-year, $1.75 million deal to back up Connor Hellebuyck, and in that time, he posted maybe the best season of his career. 22 games started, 15-5-2 was his record, in even 2.0 goals against average and a .927 save percentage. An unreal year from Laurent Brossoit. He undoubtedly helped the Jets get the William M. Jennings Trophy for the lowest goals against in the regular season with 199 and gave Connor Hellebuyck some much needed rest in the regular season. His contract projection from Evolving Hockey is a 3-year deal at $3.2 million a season, and that is just simply too expensive for Winnipeg. They already paid Connor Hellebuyck $8.5 million a season to be their workhorse starter. They're going to have to go cheap at backup, and Laurent Brossoit played too well for backup money. He's going to go and get starter money somewhere, 3 years, $3.2 million, maybe a starter or a 1A, 1B goaltending type of situation. But Laurent Brossoit more than likely gone at that price tag, given the fact Winnipeg has already paid their Vezina Trophy winning goaltender. Next up on the list is right-handed defenseman Dylan DeMelo, and he has been a perfect partner for Josh Morrissey over the past couple of seasons, playing a full 82 games this year, only scoring the 3 goals, but 28 assists and 31 points. Not bad for a defensive defenseman. Again, on that top pairing, he's proven he can handle that role alongside Morrissey. They posted great numbers, great analytics every year that they were together, and Dylan DeMelo is a big question mark from the Jets side of things. He's a pending UFA, so he can test the open market. He's 31 years old, and Evolving Hockey is projecting a 4-year, $4.8 million per season deal for Dylan DeMelo. Right now, he's getting paid $3 million a year, so this is quite the raise for him. I would expect his contract to come in more around the 4 or maybe 4.5 range rather than the $5 million range, but I wouldn't be shocked. He's proven he can handle a top 4 role alongside an elite defenseman like Josh Morrissey, and this is a big question mark. Do you think the Jets will bring back Dylan DeMelo? Let me know in the comments below. Next up on the list is Brenden Dillon, a 34-year-old left-handed defenseman, a physical defensive defenseman. This guy will be a hot commodity on the open market if he makes it there. 8 goals is a career high for him, which he reached last season, 12 assists and 20 points in 77 games played. His projected contract from Evolving Hockey is a 2-year deal at $3 million. Unlike DeMelo, who was projected to have a raise on his contract, Dillon's projection is actually lower than what he was making. He was making $3.9 million a season going into free agency. They're projecting a $3 million deal over 2 years. That might obviously go up if he does hit free agency and teams get into a bidding war, and a veteran defensive defenseman like Dillon, there may be a bidding war with a ton of suitors for him. I could see that contract being a little bit higher. I think we're looking at another case here where the Winnipeg Jets would love to bring back Brenden Dillon, especially at that projected contract of a 2-year deal at $3 million a season. But as a player who just put up his career high in goals, a veteran physical defender. I could see him moving on in free agency and the Jets going with a younger option on their blue line, maybe promoting Dylan Samberg to a top 4 role. There are options here, but I think the Jets would love to bring back Brenden Dillon. We've got 2 more UFAs to talk about, and they both came over to Winnipeg on trade deadline day, starting with the forward Tyler Toffoli. 79 games played this year, 33 goals, 22 assists, and 55 points. He's now put up multiple 30-goal seasons, and because of that, Evolving Hockey is projecting a 3-year, $6 million per year contract for Toffoli. He's a 32-year-old winger. I believe that term might be a little bit higher than 3 years when all is said and done, but at $6 million, the Jets simply can't afford him. He was a pure rental at the deadline for their Stanley Cup playoff push, and unfortunately, I think he'll be walking in free agency. The last unrestricted free agent to talk about is Colin Miller, and his projected contract is 3 years at $3 million per season. And I think as a veteran right-hand shot defenseman, that's middle to bottom pairing money. I think he gets that in free agency. And that's another player I don't think the Jets can afford to spend that money on. They'll maybe go with a younger option like a Ville Heinola or keep Nate Schmidt in that role next season. Either way, I think Colin Miller is elsewhere in free agency come July 1st. That's going to do it for the UFAs. Now we're going to move on to the restricted free agents. The Jets have control of these players. They won't be testing the open market on July 1st, but a contract still needs to be agreed upon, and there's still some projections to be had. So let's get right into it. But before we do that, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss videos like this from Winnipeg Sports Talk in the future. Let's get into the RFAs, starting with Cole Perfetti. It was a really up and down season for Perfetti, who had a really strong first half of the season in a top 6 role on that second line. Ended the season with 71 games played, 19 goals, 19 assists, and 38 points. But down the stretch, the second half of the year was put in the press box a few times, struggled, had a 20-plus game goal drought. In the playoffs, didn't play the first 4 games of the series and was slotted in Game 5 and then benched in the third period of that game. So a really weird season for Cole Perfetti, who's still a very young player, but he needs a new contract this year. And I think Evolving Hockey's projection here is bang on. 2 years, $3 million. You can see that dollar number creep up to maybe 3.5 as Gabriel Vilardi got that number last offseason. But either way, I think we're looking at a bridge contract here, a 2-year deal for Cole Perfetti. Some fans, rightfully so, want the Jets to go long-term, sign him for the next 6 years at a higher price tag. But I think from Perfetti's point of view, he's hoping he can sustain a top 6 role next season, and then 2 years from now, cash in on a long-term contract at a higher dollar value. Either way, I think the Jets would be getting great value on that 2-year deal at $3 million a season. And I think from Perfetti's camp, a 2-year deal, a bridge, is exactly what they'll be looking for. Cole Perfetti, an RFA, let me know in the comments below, what do you think about a 2-year bridge deal for Perfetti? We've got 2 more RFAs to talk about, starting on the defensive side of things with Logan Stanley. Stanley really improved his play down the stretch last year, but then in the playoffs struggled with the Avalanche's foot speed. A 1-year, $1 million contract is what Evolving Hockey is projecting, and I could see the Jets doing that. Stanley proved down the stretch he can be a solid 7th defensive option in the event of an injury or another defenseman needing a night off, or the Jets playing against a physical opponent. I could see Stanley coming back at that price. Let me know in the comments below if you agree. Last but certainly not least, the Gus Bus. David Gustafsson is a restricted free agent and he'll be needing a new contract this offseason. 39 games played, 3 goals, 4 assists, and 7 points. Rick Bowness loved the way David Gustafsson played on that 4th line, and I could see the Jets bringing him back at that projected contract from Evolving Hockey, 1 year, $1 million. Similar to Stanley, Gustafsson proved last year that he can be an effective 13th forward and step in on that 4th line in the event of an injury, and at 1 year, $1 million, that is good depth. The Jets, I think, would be all over that deal for David Gustafsson to come back as the 13th forward. If you followed my Jets weekly throughout the year, he was always one of the hardest working Jets. I think the Jets really value that in their bottom 6, and I think they'll be bringing back David Gustafsson for another season. That's going to do it for the Winnipeg Jets free agency preview. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss videos like this from Winnipeg Sports Talk in the future. I'll be back with another video later in the month, maybe teeing up some draft, maybe teeing up some other storylines, breaking down some trades if they happen. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss whatever content comes your way from Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Have a great week, everyone.